So my name is Phill Ward. I am a family support officer for guide dogs. I'll tell you a little bit more about what that is later on. But the main focus of this presentation is the buddy dog service. And as Jane alluded to there, she's very kindly agreed to also talk about her personal experience and her family's experience of that buddy dog service as well at the end of this presentation. Linda, if you put the second slide up, please.
It's done.
Okay, so this is what's going to be covered. We're going to discuss what a buddy dog is, and just as importantly, what a buddy dog is not. Look at the process for buddy dog application. We will be looking at how you can go about applying for a buddy dog, and also it's not on this list, but I'll just give you a brief overview of the other services that guide dogs offer to children, young people, and families. Next slide, please.
On.
Okay, so a buddy dog, it's a well-behaved companion and friend to a child who has a vision impairment. A buddy dog is a dog that is not necessarily suited to being a guide dog, but we do feel that it has a key part to play in changing the life of a child with a vision impairment. A buddy dog, it can be something that can transform a family, the whole family, and also can help to build the confidence of a child with a vision impairment. Next slide, please.
On.
This slide is my colleagues in the buddy dog service, the canine assistive partners. We've got a list of 3 here. However, since this has been made, we're in the process of recruiting 2 more. And although it has regions of the country listed on here, we actually now have a full UK-wide service. So wherever you are in the UK, you are able to apply for a buddy dog. But just to mention the 3 colleagues that are on here, we've got Robbie, who's based up in Scotland, who also covers the northeast and northwest of England. We've got Natalie, who is in the Midlands region, but also covers Wales. And then we've got Joe, who covers the south of England. But as I mentioned, we do have 2 other staff, and we do cover the whole of the UK now. Next slide, please.
On.
Okay, so this is what a buddy dog is. A buddy dog is placed in a house which has a child with a vision impairment. It's, as we mentioned before, a well-behaved companion and friend. It is a family pet. However, it does ultimately belong to guide dogs, although the family will be looking after it and it will be paid for in terms of food and vet bills and so on by the family. So just to put a bit more detail onto that, because it is something that comes up. When we say it's owned by us, but looked after by the family, the ultimate aim is that the partnership is successful. We want that dog to work. We want the family to benefit from it. We want the dog to be happy as well. We have a duty of care to the dog and to the family. So in situations where we feel that perhaps the dog isn't happy or isn't healthy, we have that right to withdraw that dog from that family. Equally, though, it gives a reassurance to the family that if they feel that for whatever reason the buddy dog service isn't actually right for them, it's not working out, they are able to then give that dog back to us. So that's really why that's there. It's not a loan or a short-term thing. It's meant to be a long-term success, and that's what we all aim for. It's just we have to have that in there as a safeguard because of the duty of care we've got to our dogs and also the duty of care we've got to the families. Next slide, please.
On.
Okay, so this is what a buddy dog is not. So it's not a mobility aid. It's not the child's dog, which I've just covered. It's not an assistance dog. So those 2 points, just really to draw a distinction between what the buddy dog service is and the guide dog service. Guide dogs have right of access to shops, restaurants, taxis, schools. A buddy dog, unfortunately, does not have that. It's not a recognised assistance dog. So essentially, think of the things that you can do with a pet dog, and that's essentially what you can do with a buddy dog. That's the same limitations. Obviously, because it has a benefit to a family and a child, you can potentially negotiate with individual situations, maybe a school or so on, but that is not something that we can support with. It has to be done on an individual basis because it hasn't got the same legal status as a guide dog. And the final point on this slide is it's not a superhero. Now, don't get me wrong, our dogs are definitely wonderful. I'm obviously going to say that, but they are. The reason we have that on there is because we're aware that when families do come to us, sometimes it is in very difficult circumstances and they're looking for a solution. And we just want to make sure that people are aware, you know, it is, as much as they're wonderful, they are an animal and it doesn't know what its role is. And sometimes it might not work out. And we just want people to be aware that it's not a guaranteed success. So that's why that's on there. Next slide, please.
On.
Okay, so this is a bit about the process that you'd go through for applying for a buddy dog. This isn't everything, so I'll just fill in the gaps. So we've got discovery session, and then what it should have actually in between there is an application. So we have an eligibility phone conversation. We have what we call the discovery session, which I'll tell you more about in a bit. And then after that, you're invited to apply. Once you've applied, we have the development session, and then later on we have an experience day, and then we get to the placement, and then there's aftercare. And the aftercare is because, again, because it's still owned by us, we have a duty to come in there and make sure everything's working for you and for the dog. So it's not as if you just get the dog and you're left. We still keep in contact. Okay, next slide, please.
On.
So a bit more detail then. So the discovery sessions, now these used to be face-to-face, but since lockdown, they've become digital on webinars through Zoom. And we've decided that actually going forward, that's the best way to deliver these because it enables more people to get to them from different parts of the country. It gives us more flexibility. So what the discovery session is, it's a parent and adult only session. It's an opportunity to find out more about the eligibility, about what a buddy dog is and it isn't, what we expect from you as potential buddy dog owners, you know, the realities of looking after a dog. But also if we discover at this point that the buddy dog service isn't necessarily for you, but you still feel some sort of assistance dog is what you and your family need, we do then signpost to other dog services as well. The second session is the development one. And as I mentioned, this is after you've made an application. So at this stage, we want to get to know you and your family a bit better, individual circumstances. This is important because when we are matching the dogs, we, again, really want this to be a success. And part of that is making sure that we have a good understanding of the family that dog might be going to. We obviously have a good idea of what our dog's characteristics are like, what they can and can't cope with. So if we know who else is in the household, whether it be other people, whether it be pets, what its working experience is going to be like, all that really just helps to match the dog correctly. And then the final day is definitely a hands-on, face-to-face experience day. Or as you may find out a bit later, it may be an individual experience. I'll leave that to Jane to talk about. But this one includes the children. We want them to get to experience the dogs and just get to know more about being a dog owner. Okay, next slide, please.
On.
Is a buddy dog right for you? So this is a very brief bit of the criteria, which is that the service is only available to children with a vision impairment. And unfortunately, that does mean a certified vision impairment, which obviously can be difficult for children who may be on the edge of certification and haven't managed, been able to get one at that moment. But unfortunately, that is the criteria. It's for ages 5 to 18 or 18 to 25 if the child has additional or complex needs. The other part of it is that we want to make sure that having a dog in the household is not going to have a negative impact on anybody in the household, including the pets in that. It's a family animal, and again, we just want to make sure it's right for everybody. Next slide, please.
On.
This is about making sure everything's okay for the dogs. So suitable environment, part of the process does include a home assessment. They are usually done physically, but again, I think sometimes have been done virtually, just to make sure that it is a suitable environment for a dog. There's opportunities for it to get out and about and have a bit of fun, but also go to the toilet, that sort of thing. Again, looking at the other pets, making sure that they're going to be comfortable and that the dog's going to be comfortable with them. It just as important, this is why there's an age range for the children, is that the child either already can show that it is aware of the safety around dogs, or that we feel it can learn to understand how to be safe around a dog and how to interact safely with them. And again, that goes back to our duty of care, both to the child and to the dog. We want to make sure that no one in the family's got an animal ban. I think that's self-explanatory, really. Next slide is no longer about bully dogs. This time it is about the other family support, not family support, sorry, children and young people and family support services that we have at Guide Dogs. So just as a final summary though, anyway, so what I discussed before, took you through what a bully dog is and isn't, the processes involved, and then a bit about the criteria. We'll get on to how you'd go about applying for one and Jane's experience in a moment, but I'll just give you a summary of the other services we offer. So family support, I'm a family support officer. My role is advice, guidance, whether it's practical or emotional support. It could be around diagnosis, it could be around eye condition information, it could be about activities, it could be about benefits. It's really quite broad ranging support, but really it's at that point when things may be a bit difficult or a bit confusing, uncertain, you just want to talk to someone about it and get out. That's what a family support officer is there for, really, just to help guide you through all that. And we also have, similar to this parent group, we've got a parent group for parents whose children got cerebral vision impairment, and we've got a parent group for parents who've got children with an ocular eye condition. We have an education support service. The education support team, reasonably self-explanatory, but a lot of support with education, health and care plans, advice about the different specialists that you may need to speak to ensure that your children are getting access to their learning, advice about higher education and further education, about moving schools if necessary, if you've moved area, that sort of thing, really. Lots of education-based support. We've got habilitation services, that's mobility, orientation, independent living skills. That covers all ages, 0 to 18. So it really just depends at what stage of the development that your child is, that what support they might need from that. We have assistive technology advice and information, which also has a grant service. So there's a lot out there, not always easy to know what's the right thing, and because it's so expensive, it's often difficult to commit. So it's worth having a chat sometimes with someone just to see if we can get the right piece of equipment for you and your child. And then the grant service is there to support with that if necessary. We have customized books. Customized books are for children who are have still got some vision, that are able to read print. It's not just large print though, it's about having specifically tailored print, which could be different font sizes, different colors, different backgrounds. What we would do, we would send a sample book out, and then the individual children can identify which they can read most effectively. And then you can either order recreational books in that font, or the schools can order educational material in that font. But they try to make them as similar to books as possible, really, because obviously I'm sure we know that a lot of children don't want to stand out, don't want to be too different, don't want to be carrying massive things around in them. So they do work very closely on trying to make them as standardized, I suppose, as possible. And finally, we've got the family events, which unfortunately are on hold at the moment, but once everything opens up again, opportunities to come to different venues around the country, join in fun activities, meet the families, generally just have a bit of fun. Okay, final slide is the how to get in touch and get any of our services. Really is the guideline general number, which is on there, which is 0800 781144, or you could email us at children@guidedogs.org.uk, or you can search for our services for more information on the website. That is the presentation. There'll be an opportunity for questions, but I think to back up what we've just been talking about, it might be worth going straight over to Jane with your experience of becoming a buddy dog owner.
Yeah, so I think, like possibly a lot of you, my daughter Chloe, who's 12, has really struggled for two particular reasons since she started secondary school, but also then, so she only had a term and a bit of secondary school. She suddenly was in a noisier, busier environment. She's also hearing impaired. So I think she was coming to terms with her difference in a really difficult way. Then lockdown happened. So she hadn't engaged with friends for a long, long time. She finds Zoom interactions really difficult. And I was getting more and more worried about her. And I was on a Look event last year, and someone kind of interrupted me because I was talking about my fears, because she wouldn't let me leave the room anymore. This bright, confident, happy girl was changing in front of me. And someone said, "Oh, do you know, Jane, that the buddy dog scheme has started again?" So I looked into it, and it has all been done via webinar. And so that was good. Then the country unlocked. We did our session. Jo is our matching person. She's very lovely. And so we had 2 webinars. I went and I talked to my husband. For me, it was always a no-brainer, but my husband is not a dog person. And it was a really serious conversation that we had to have. We had to think about the impact it would have on our life, and all those things. You have to be at home for the dog, not leave them for more than 4 hours. But I really felt that the benefits would outweigh anything, and so we talked about it. And he is an amazing dad, and he was like, "Yeah, the most important thing is Chloe. We need to help her. She's stuck." And so I feel really lucky, because then the next lockdown happened in November, when we could have had an experience. And I was emailing guide dogs, because we all advocate for our children, and saying, we're so nearly there. Is there any way you can kind of move the process on? I'm getting really, really concerned. It's not a rescue, but I just know it would make such a difference to Chloe. She's looking forward to seeing if she can be matched. And the lovely Jo did say, "Well, actually, we've got a dog that is very close to you, which we think would be very suitable for Chloe, listening to your family circumstance." So we did have our experience in our back garden, and Chloe doesn't like barking. That was the only thing. We didn't mind what kind of dog or how old the dog was, but she didn't want barking because it really makes her jump. And from the moment she met Sapphire, who's this big, fluffy golden retriever, she's quiet but has a big presence and was all calm and gentle, we felt straight away that she'd be great. So actually she was placed with us the next day, and it is just been so positive for all of us. The cat has disappeared upstairs, but she is slowly coming to terms with this new big furry thing in our lives, and changes are continuing to happen to Chloe all the time. This latest online learning has been really hard, but she's had Sapphire at her feet, and every time she's stressed, every time she has someone to cuddle, She had refused to go out the house for weeks and weeks and weeks last year, but she goes out with Sapphire at least 3 times a week, sometimes slightly more reluctantly than others. And she's a person who really, a child who really struggles to engage with her peers, to find things to talk about with them, and it's this amazing thing. She talks to dog owners about her dog, and you know, there's all these little changes that are happening, and I'm just so grateful. And Phill is absolutely right. It's not a miracle. It's not they're not superhuman, but at the same time, yeah, it's just it's been so positive. I have actually decided to write about it for this session, so I think Look are going to put a blog about it on Monday. But yeah, I would just encourage anyone who's thinking about it to understand do the webinars, because they really do help you understand what you're taking on, but also, yeah, kind of go for it. And also they really match you well. Sapphire's very soft, and you know, she didn't become a guide dog. She's not that motivated, but that's perfect for us, because as a family, I've just had my hip replaced. You know, my husband worked all day, so he's not the most active, you know, when he's at home. So actually she fits in perfectly with us. She is very happy to lie around and just have cuddles, and then she loves her walk, and then she'll come home and lie around and have cuddles again. So she's very, very, very well matched to us. And Chloe now talks about when she can see her friends and they can meet Sapphire, and when she can see my parents and they can, you know, it's like she's got something else to think about, which is magical. So there you go.
Thank you very much, Jane. That's really lovely. I'm really pleased it's worked out so well.